I'm not necessarily the one at fault. This other vessel was the one at fault.
No, that's not what it's saying.
It's saying that constituted negligence, right? So the other vessel was the negligent vessel?
No, it's saying negligence is, it's different than criminal law. Many people describe it like a pie. 100% of the fault for an accident gets divided between the participants. That interrogatory is simply saying that the unidentified vessel bears some, we contended that the unidentified vessel bears some percentage of the fault for the accident.
Right, but if there was no other vessel, then this would be an inaccurate statement, correct?
I don't believe that it would be inaccurate.
If there was no other vessel that contributed to the cause of this crash, then saying the wake of the unidentified vessel heading northbound was a contributing legal cause, that would be an inaccurate statement.
What are we, back in the fucking 90s, 80s?
I told you, was it?
It's amazing.
You obviously would not want to put into a court file a pleading that was, from your vantage point, untruthful, right? You're an officer of the court.
Correct.
And so you have obligations when you file a document that what you're filing in good faith you believe to be accurate.
Yes.
And you thought in good faith that you could trust that what your client was telling you was truthful, right?
Yes.
Now, if an interrogatory is posed to a party to a lawsuit, hey, how did X happen? If that party does not know how something happened, that party can answer, I don't know the answer to that question, can't they?
They could.
And so when Cecilia Pino was asked about how the crash happened, she could have answered by saying, I don't know because I wasn't watching when the crash happened. She could have answered that, correct?
She could have.
But she didn't, did she?
No.
Now, you indicated that Mr. Pino wanted to do everything he could to resolve the claims, right?
Yes.
Okay, but that's not really true, is it?
I would disagree with you.
Because isn't it true that you wound up filing a pleading on March 15th, 2023, trying to limit his liability for his actions in this boat crash? Didn't you?
The federal court action?
Yes.
Yes.
Crash.
In fact,
Everything else before it happened.
I could have joint counsel state side one.
That's what Judge, may we approach on the exhibit?
All right, while they're taking that break, let's take a break of our own with our attorney who is standing by, Joanna Nieves, who's watching with us. Joanna, what do you think about what we've heard now from the attorney, the Maritime, who is having to explain these interrogatories? I know that's not a word that you hear every day, but in the civil arena, it's constant. It is part of discovery. You get a bunch of questions from the other side.
It's not a word you hear
amount
every
of time
day.
to respond. Your lawyer helped
That's it.
text, but now it is evidence in this this criminal trial, rather.
Right, and I believe that, what the lawyer is articulating, that this theory that they all believe. I think Cecilia relied on the statements that George had made. The lawyers are relying on the statements that were given to the police at that time. And when in answering the interrogatories, they referred back to the body-worn camera and the statements about the wake. Now it seems as though, the prosecution has put on testimony from witnesses that kind of reflect that these, where there was no other boat that kind of caused any contributing factor to this. But that does not necessarily mean that George did not believe that to be true at the time. And I think that was the point of calling the neurologist and his, explaining the confusion that can be caused by a head injury. And just because the head injury goes away doesn't necessarily mean that at that point in time, he had understood that this boat didn't actually exist, if that's the theory they're going with.
I am a bit surprised, Joanna, that his civil attorneys didn't keep it more vague. knowing that this criminal case rather, was broiling in the background. He had already been arrested in August of 2023, so about a year after the crash happened is when he had those criminal charges. And these interrogatories
She
were
already been
responded
arrested
to in
a
October
year
of
before
2023,
the
so
crash happened.
they had a couple of months. Talk about just that consideration that attorneys have to give when they are handling something that is both civil and criminal.
I don't disagree with you. I think that there are steps. I mean, everybody who's even touched civil discovery knows that there's objections that are lodged to many of the questions that are asked, and the word vague is a good answer or word to use here. That you can kind of talk around a subject in order to protect future interests, and there are actually even privileges that can be raised in the discovery responses. So I'm wondering if it really just came down to they believe that this was a contributing factor. They believe that this boat existed. George really, in his communications with his attorney, likely had this true, authentic belief that didn't give rise to any, suspicion from his attorneys that they may have been pushing a theory that would be kind of debunked later by the prosecution.
I agree. That could lend itself to why this was an authentic belief by the defendant. We will see how this plays out. Joanna, stand by. Let's get to our break. And when we come back, more live court there.
Oh, yeah, we're in the 80s, huh? That's why it keeps breaking up. Yeah.
Watch Life's home for price.
Choose and customize your channel lineup, or pause and watch for free. Sling lets you do that. Base package required.
This is a Morgan & Morgan. If you use talcum powder for personal hygiene and were later diagnosed with ovarian cancer, this message is for you. For years, these products were part of everyday routines, used without question, used without warning. But studies have found a possible link between talc-based powders and ovarian cancer. Now companies are facing lawsuits, and victims may be entitled to compensation. But to receive it, you have to act. You have to know what to file, how to prove use, how to push back. You used it. They didn't warn you. We take it from here. We've recovered over $30 billion for our clients, and you don't pay unless we win. If you or a loved one were diagnosed with ovarian cancer after using talcum powder, visit forthepeople.com. Morgan & Morgan, America's injury law firm.
Call 800-450-0099. Call now.
An important message for Americans ages 50 to 85.
You seen that life insurance thing I got in the mail?
From Colonial Penn?
Yeah, that's it.
It's over there.
The recycle bin. I sent for this.
You're buying life insurance now? Have you been to the grocery store lately? The last thing we need is another bill.
That's exactly why we need life insurance. If something happens to either of us, those bills won't go away. Life insurance can help pay them.
Yeah,
funeral costs too.
Makes a lot of sense.
Take a look at this. It costs pennies a day.
That's right.
Take a look at
Rates
this.
for Colonial Penn life insurance start at $9.95 a month. That's 35 cents a day. And this is one bill you know will never go up. A lifetime rate lock guarantees it. Your rate is guaranteed, and so is your acceptance. That makes applying quick and easy. There are no medical questions, no physical
The
exam.
rate is guaranteed.
Since you can't be turned down, we don't ask about your health. And this is lifetime coverage. It never expires. Just pay your bill, and it's yours to keep for as long as you'd like.
Nonsense.
This is the application. There's nothing to it. No health questions. What's this?
Free beneficiary planner. When we fill it out, all our important information and final wishes will be in one place.
The kids will appreciate that.
Call for more information and your free gift today. Read how easy it is to get life insurance from Colonial Penn. Even if you have pre-existing conditions or a fixed income, it's easy and risk-free. Every policy we issue comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call now to learn more. You have nothing to lose.
Call 1-800-422-7955 for free information and a free beneficiary planner. That's 1-800-422-7955. There's no obligation. 1-800-422-7955. Call now.
I won this skydiving package on Deal Dash?
Lori won $2,000 Tiffany earrings for just $1, and Joseph won an iPad for just $6. There's millions of fast auctions, so try today at DealDash.com for $50 of free credit and your first win guaranteed. Menopause isn't a mystery. It's just been overlooked for too long. Every day, thousands of women head towards menopause, and relief feels out of reach. Now, Bonafide's line of targeted products is here, a breakthrough in menopause relief. Bonafide's clinically studied hormone-free solutions mean fewer hot flashes, less feminine dryness, greater intimacy, and more. Women deserve solutions that work. Bonafide, relief for every woman.
Bonafide.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. We're going back to Miami, where a question in front of this jury right now is, was George Pino's claim to investigators about a large boat from a big boat a cover-up or an honest mistake? Back now to that boat crash manslaughter trial happening there. We're in day 2 of the defense case. It's day 8 of the trial overall. George Pino is accused of causing this deadly boating crash that killed a 17-year-old girl, Lucy Fernandez, and seriously injured other passengers. The defense is trying to convince this jury that this was a terrible accident, not a crime, and that their client suffered a traumatic brain injury, and that's why he was mistaken about the large boat causing this crash. Let's get you back into the courtroom now. We have a maritime attorney for the defendant who is on the stand, so someone who represented him in the lawsuit side of this case, where they filled out sworn statements in the civil discovery that included that claim about a large boat causing this crash.
All right, Cassie, you can proceed.
Thank you. So, Mr. Mescalado, in point of fact, on March 15th of 2023, you filed on behalf of George Pino a petition for exoneration from or limitation of liability, didn't you?
Wow. I'd have to look at the date, but...
For the record, I'm showing the witness dates 5Y for identification.
Yes, this is a petition for exoneration from or limitation of liability.
And who is the petitioner seeking exoneration from liability?
Well, it's exoneration or limitation. We wouldn't be seeking exoneration in this case, but to answer your question, it's Mr. Pino.
Right. It's not the insurance company, is it? The petitioner is George I. Pino, hereinafter referred to as the petitioner, correct?
Correct. In Florida, insurance companies are not parties in cases like this.
And so within that document, the defendant was seeking to limit what kind of liability he might have for his responsibility in this crash, correct?
Yes.
And in that petition, he gave a series of facts about what happened in the crash, didn't he?
The petition is not signed under oath, if that's what you're getting at.
Oh, so you don't have to be truthful in a court pleading if you're not signing it under oath?
You're talking about Mr. Pino.
Yes.
Mr. Pino didn't draft that document.
Understood, but you weren't there when the crash happened, were you?
Of course not.
Right. And so really the only source of information for how the crash happened was Mr. Pino or the people that were on his vessel, correct?
We also did investigation, but yes, the primary source would have been Mr. Pino and the people on his vessel.
And so the information was that there was, at about 6:30 p.m., that his vessel was subjected to a large wake thrown by a large center console or sport fish type vessel heading northeast on the intercoastal waterway, while his boat and the other one were going through the channel in the vicinity of navigational marker 15, correct? You remember that?
Oh my God.
Yes, if that's what it says.
And that in that area, it
amplified
the weight of this other vessel, correct? That was the information that you were given to put into this plea. And that the vessel left the scene and to date has not been identified, correct?
That's an accurate statement.
That's what he said, right?
It's an accurate statement. We did not identify the vessel.
What if there was no vessel? Then of course you didn't identify it, right?
Presumably.
Okay. You also were given information from your client that the other vessel began that his vessel began to turn unexpectedly on its own and put itself on a course roughly heading toward navigational marker 15. That was the information that was provided to you by the defendant, correct?
Yes.
Also that he attempted to steer and correct course but was unable to prevent an collision with navigational marker 15. That also is information given to you by the defendant.
Yes.
And this information was given to you while the defendant was trying to limit the liability that he would have for the damages that he caused to other people in that crash, correct?
Yes.
Additionally, again, you indicated that Mr. Pino wanted to do everything to resolve the claims, correct? Now, right?
Yes.
Now, the interrogatories that we were talking about, those were signed on October the 19th of 2023, right?
Correct.
Now,
October the 19th.
in addition to having filed in March of 2023 a pleading to try to limit his liability, you also then on August 14th of 2023, you filed a motion to try to get the lawsuit dismissed, didn't you?
We filed a motion to dismiss.
So the answer to my question was yes, right?
Well, the purpose of that motion was never to have the Puig's entire lawsuit dismissed. We were taking legal issue with certain claims that were brought against Mr. Pino and Mrs. Pino. Legal arguments about the viability of the claims. The purpose of a motion to dismiss is not wholly to knock out a whole case. It's also if you have issues with the claims that are being brought. We believe certain claims were legally insufficient. We filed a motion to dismiss. There was hearing before the judge, and it was granted in part and denied in part. So we received some relief, not all we asked for, and the lawsuit continued.
Right, but that certainly is not necessarily indicative of a person who's trying to do everything that he can to resolve the claims. That's a person who's trying to limit what claims he has to have.
No, by this point, the three claims that I mentioned before had already been settled, or resolved.
Court TV, mind you.
And we were litigating with the Puig family. In that situation, they brought a claim that time, and so we were required to do certain things to defend Mr. and Mrs. Pino's rights while working to try to resolve the Puig claim, which is what ultimately happened.
Right, but it certainly hadn't happened. There was not an agreement by the defendant in this case to allow what the Puigs were seeking to go forward. At that point, he was saying, no, I'm not willing to do that which the Puigs are asking for. Isn't that true?
No, that's not accurate.
So he was ready to settle as of August of 2023.
While the Puig claim had been mediated prior to them filing a lawsuit, so Mr. Pino and his wife attempted to resolve that case before litigation was ever filed. They continued to attempt to resolve that case throughout the entirety of the litigation. And it was only when we got to a certain that a resolution was reached. So you simply have to do certain things to answer pleadings, respond to complaints, respond to discovery. All the while, efforts were underway behind the scenes to try to...
Right, so mediation was attempted first. That was unsuccessful, and there being your client being, or your then client being willing to do everything he could to resolve the claims. And then after that was unsuccessful, then a lawsuit was filed against him, correct?
Yes, and then there were multiple other mediations between the Pinos, the Puigs, and all the other involved parties while the case was progressing.
Right, and the other involved parties had nothing to do with George Pino. They had to do with other entities like, Ocean Reef Volunteer Fire Department, things of that nature, correct?
Oh my God.
Yes, the brought claims related to the treatment their daughter received after the accident.
Right, but I'm not really focusing on those claims. I'm asking you about the claim between the Puig family and George. And so to the extent that during that
Yeah. Just puts off.
necessarily indicative of a man who's trying to do everything he can to resolve the claims, is it?
I would disagree with you.
Okay. Now, in order to file that claim, once again, you had to rely on information from your client at the time, George Pino, right?
In part.
That makes my
And
entire
so,
point.
because his wife Cecilia has said that she didn't see the crash, really the only source of information that you had about how the crash happened was pretty much from your client, right?
Not exclusively. We had interviewed other persons aboard the vessel. I had spoken with the FWC investigators. I had reviewed what reports were available from the FWC. We had access to the body cam footage, so there was a lot of sources for information in addition to Mr. Pino.
Sure, but in terms of how the crash itself happened, body-worn camera couldn't tell you, could it?
Well, the investigators certainly had their theories about how the crash happened, which were relayed to me. They
Again,
developed.
body-worn camera footage doesn't tell you how the crash happened because the body-worn camera wasn't turned on until after the crash had happened.
Body-worn camera footage captured interviews with Mr. Pino and many other people that were involved in the accident, so it did provide information.
Okay, but in terms of the actual conduct of the operator of that vessel, are you saying that the girls that were on the vessel were able to give information about how George Pino navigated the boat?
There was information received from the girls about his navigation on that return trip, yes.
At the time of the crash?
Not at the time of the crash.
Right, not at the time of the crash. So you really didn't get any information about what was happening with that vessel at the time of the crash from any of the girls because they were not paying attention to how he was navigating, were they?
Correct.
Okay, so now, in terms of explaining how the crash, George Pino told you that.
On a boat, obviously they don't.
All right,
have
we're
to
hitting
be
the pause button
watching
so we can get to our break. We know in real time inside that courtroom, we know we're a little bit behind because of commercial breaks sometimes. All of the parties went into the jury room together, not
behind
with
because
the
of
judge,
commercial break?
just the defense and the prosecution. So we'll talk about what's going to happen on the other side. Will we know anything about whether George Pino is going to testify?
That's just-
Stay with us. You're
Not
watching
just
Court
the
TV.
show, it's the commercials too, man.
You injured in a car, truck, motorcycle, or rideshare accident?
An attorney may help you pursue compensation. Injury helpline agents are waiting for your call. Get your free consultation now.
We are helping car accidents every day get the money they deserve. Vehicle accident.
That 69 vote 3,000.
You may be a lock settlement depending on your case.
Line today.
Merit is the